absolutely mento. Now with all of Rich's stuff all done, the dust is settled. It is time to start assembling the car. So this is probably the coolest part of everything. So the next whole sections of the video, just enjoy this because this is the fruit of our labor, putting it all together. So Isaiah is putting the Altezza system back in that we just wired, all for mil spec. The fuel system's going in, the core harness is going in. I'm doing the main power lines. We now have a power switch for the battery, so I can shut the battery off itself, unrelated to the actual system safety, 2 different functions. It's all kind of coming together right now.
This is how the whole thing goes into the car. I got this badass engine harness back here. I got the fuel pressure regulator on right here. I got the vacuum line for the fuel pressure regulator somewhere. This guy's right here. Like this all goes into the car, literally just like this. This fuel line returns back into the regulator right here. This one's gonna come down here to the primary rail and then come back up here to regulate. You got all connected. What is this? Crank right here, turbo speed. It's everything. Look at this. This is just insane.
Like, yeah, they even have like the wideband O2, EMAP, any sensors. I didn't know that we were going to be able to fit it in this tight. Otherwise, I would have made this a 90. But it's great.
And then literally, you just pick it up, install into the car. Whole engine harness and everything is there.
And then also, you guys can see it's a little dark, but the harness is being supported and hidden between all of his little rail protector things. While I was gone racing, Isaiah went and made this nice 90, and then I made this boot a 90-degree boot with the clip up here with almost exactly this vision, and so it's not sticking up so high. And then he also removed all the little purple hats off of this rail where it was sticking up way too high.
Even with the speed flow freeze, like this nice 180, this is going to be a 120. I got all the weird degrees. Like this should have been like a 90, but I had a 120 instead to just make that super. These are 30 degrees coming out. I'm really proud of this. This is.
Here, wait, spin it one more time.
Wow.
Yeah. Whoopie kitty. You're being extra right now. No, you're being extra right now.
This is the moment. I've been waiting all day and night, and
Kid Cudi style.
It has been honestly a struggle because I went through 2 intake manifold gaskets because I had to make a new one. So this guy is hand cut by yours truly, and this guy fits like a glove. Besides the holes, but. The bolt holes came out a little off, but the more important part are the ports. This is actually a final install of all the electronics to the front, or to the engine actually.
We are finally at a moment where we can install the intake manifold.
Yes.
So I think one of the weirdest parts about rotary engines, or at least when you're porting them or doing billet ones, is that space is so close between the 2 runners. Those are 2 different parties going on. You don't want them mixing.
They just think air is air,
Yeah. This is one rotor right here and here. This is a totally different rotor, so it wouldn't be good to have both of these mixing. The template for this actually came from CAD I made, because I wanted to be able to do this in CAD, and it actually...
Not staying in its place, but it's good, trust me. So now, I like looking at those and I'm like, man, how do I fit 1,000 horsepower worth of air through those small little things? Then I think back to my promenade. When it comes to racing these cars, I want to be at peak physical and mental health. My thing lately has been what I like to start my day out with. It really does set my day in a totally different trajectory, is with my athletic greens. This is not just okay, cool, I'm working with these guys. I beg them to send me even more product because I use this stuff religiously. Even Joel steals some of it from me. This is the right way for me to start my day. And as you can tell, honestly, my day has been getting better. This is one of many ways that you can integrate this into your diet. And in my case, I tend to put it into my smoothies. This is a lot like the wheatgrass I was taking when I was younger, but way more things packed into it. You've got probiotics in something that's green, which is something that you think of like a yogurt. This has billions of probiotics, it has a full thing of like a multivitamin, but then the minerals, all the other adaptogens, all the other things that are in there is what really sells me on this. And I do feel like my day starts so much better with this.
Damn.
If you want to get your greens, go to athleticgreens.com/RobDahm to sign up, and you actually get a free one of these, and you can tell I've been using it. 1 drop is enough vitamin D3 because you know I'm not getting enough vitamin D from the sun while I'm in here. Not only that, with your first order going that way, you get 5 extra packets of this.
Well, without all the noise in the background from non-important people, so those move freely. This one was long. I had to cut that one down.
Yeah.
Same thing with these guys. These are all, everything's all zip tied up, ready to go. Engine harness, all. I even put these little injectors right here so they don't even get crushed.
How would you ever allow this to happen? I had them where they were all perfect.
You kind of didn't.
I kind of did. They were, each one was looped the exact same way.
You want to do that real quick then?
I want you to fix it.
I didn't want to loop it like this because that looked tacky to me. Does that not look tacky to you?
I didn't think so.
We are finally ready. We got these all done up the right way. Robert wants them.
Yeah, there we go. Got that nice row of them. Actually, I can focus on your face, and I should be able to see your eye right there.
Right there?
Yep. Oh, the camera sucks, but there.
Nice.
It's finally the moment that this intake manifold, like we've got so many changes to the car, all found right in here.
Neon.
Mil specs thing, the fuel pressure regulator, the drive-by-wire, all of that. Even me cutting that down. It was all warped on the bottom. It's starting to get crazy when the hair does weird things. This is day 753. I don't know what day it is of this. There's no days anymore. It's not even hours anymore. But I want to show you guys the major update we just did yesterday, which was Sunday, but it was like a normal work day. Check this out. You saw us about to put this on. We had some difficulties with the engine harness protectors and the engine, so those got moved. But then everything else looks just stunning. This right here will go and feed the front rail. I'm assuming it'll kind of come down under here, but the front rail gets fed from there. Super accessible. Like, this was my dream to see this all work like that. This rail looks great. This is just beautiful. All of my harness is here. The moment I want you guys to know that it is so important to me, that's it. That's the entire engine harness. As you see it, that's the engine harness. There's no more coil loops over here. There's no more craziness for all that. This is 100% of the engine's functionality all done. And in fact, it has even more. It has the wideband. It has the ability to connect and disconnect the injectors and pull this whole harness off. It has all the auto sport connectors. It has the fuel pressure regulator mounted hard to it. It's got fuel pressure and temp. We've got more functionality, drive-by-wire. We've got all of these functions, less fear, less worry, because it's all packaged so nicely. Even right here is 3 more sensors, 2 more outputs. It's just incredible what a major upgrade we've gotten on this vehicle. Today's Monday. We're hopefully 3 days from a start. It's possible. Got a lot of cleaning to do out of all the oil lines and stuff like that. We're going to reuse all those. In anticipation for Kevin getting to the front of the car, these are the 2 main plugs that matter most about this. We had this guy on here, and as you guys know, I'm a huge fan of Spall fans. This is the nastiest fan that Spall makes. That's a brushed fan. But the downside to this fan is that the inrush, meaning the moment current has to hit it to turn it on, it absorbs up to about 120 amps of power. That will trip a lot of circuit breakers or fuses, even though, if say this is rated to do 50 amps. If your fuse is 50 amps, sometimes it will pop because that inrush is so strong for so much time. It's milliseconds, but it'll pop the circuit. That's what was happening with my previous power distribution module. This thing is nasty, but it's also nasty. So the cool part about this is we gained all of the functionality of this thing. So you guys saw earlier all the flappers for high speed. We gained even more space here, so that way the air pressure pulling all the air through the entire radiator, not just the area around the fan, is greater. It's more consistent instead of the shallow area here. And this is a 600 watt fan, brushless. 600 watts divided by 12 volts is 50 amps. That was supposed to be a 40 amp fan, even though I kept breaking the circuits on it. So this is even more powerful and brushless, so it's double powerful. It's better at using less current to make more physical power. Brushless is more inherently efficient like that. But it also has soft starting, smooth. We can go to like 40%, 50%. You know, you can just ramp the fan up, and hopefully that'll help with our cooling strategy. That way, it's not a boom. You hit the alternator, the whole system shocks, and your voltage dips every time you do that. This fan will be much better. So between this fan and this water pump, a nice thick set of wires going to those and then going back to the engine. But that's really about it for the wiring harness up here. Very, very pleased with everything that's going on right now. You can see a glimpse, we'll come around this side. You can see the glimpse of just how professional this whole thing is. So these will all be, you know, they have flanges, so they'll all mount in beautifully. And you know, that goes off to the power and data to the back of the car. We've got ABS and other things as well. So just a beautiful setup. He made the whole all-wheel drive system sexy, the whole fuel pump system sexy. I'm very, very pleased with all this. We're just keep plugging away. I just want to give you guys such an amazing update. When you're in the moment, you're just like, okay, there's one more step done, but now I want to pause for a second and just appreciate how amazing this car is becoming. We're gonna do a team building exercise. I'm gonna pretend I'm Joel, and Isaiah's gonna ask me a question.
Do you finally want to paint something, bro?
Yeah.
Are you sure you could paint it?
I gotta close in on this one. Fuck you. I nailed it.
I never noticed it, so you just said so. That was his fault. Thank you, Billy. Or you gave us this piece that used to be black, and this piece used to go over here. But I closed that off, put our sensor right there, and then I have a nice adapter for this. This is be boop, 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 and it's gonna boop, boop, boop.
I want to credit my buddy Scott Birdsell from Chuckle's Garage. He's got that old Smoky. He has one of these switches behind his seat, and same concept is this is the power line from the battery, and so I can ultimately have it in there. I'll just show you because I'm not finished. Put this little casing over that. All of this will go into the thing that Isaiah just welded, and so you'll be able to switch it on and off. Now you don't want to do this to turn off the car because it won't turn off the car. The alternator will keep the car running, so it'll fuck up the car. So this is more so for like, hey, I'm going to be working on the engine bay, turn off the battery, or quick maintenance, or no drain. Oh, there we go. That's the same color as the car was before, but it is finally time to wrap those fenders, and so I'm so curious to see what this is going to look like finally. The one thing that might look a little off is that the car was 1080 film from 3M, and this is now 2080 because it's been 6 years since I've wrapped the car, but it should look basically the same. This is one of my favorite additions to the car. It is the Wasp Starter. We use this in a 3-rotor, and it is ridiculously amazing. It is a different shape than a normal RX-7 or FD or FC starter, so it does have some limitations in that sense alone. Otherwise, it allows the engine to start at a slightly higher RPM, which rotaries absolutely love. They don't need as much torque like a V8 to start. Maybe this one does, but most rotaries don't need a lot of torque, so the higher RPM with just the inherent nature of rotaries makes it much easier to start them. So let's take a look at where this is going to sit. This will go in right here. There she is. Nice and easy access to both the starter solenoid and the main power. With this in place, I can now run the other power line. So now we'll run the main power line from the starter to this. And I'm currently running a 2-aught gauge, so this is well rated for everything that the alternator can do. But the alternator will never really use or send power through this. It'll help start the car better, but it's not really necessary. We could go to either 1 or 1-aught gauge. There's not really the Rob Dahm overkill effect on this one. The only time where this could get a little hot, not this one, but if you went to like a 1 gauge, is if, say, the battery was dead, alternator turns on, starts having to charge the car and the battery, you'll heat up a wire pretty quickly. We're gonna have this other end of this plug into here and then run it down to there. I'm a little hurt right now, but he was like, yeah, hey, the front chassis harness is finished. And I was like, I don't think that's the English word you're trying to use. And then he said, well, yeah, it's the same word that you used to describe this car.
Is this the first rotor you wired up or no?
Surprisingly, no. Actually, yes. There's a technicality, no, but huh?
And you fucked up that battery?
No.
On your first chance?
No. Listen, my job would be finished, but somebody takes forever. There's an exhaust manifold not put in.
Get back to work.
My work is done. I'm waiting for your ass.
There's no way your work is done.
Hell yeah, it is.
There's no way your work is done.
Hell yeah, go check.
Alright, then put it on. Amazing. We have 3 drums, so 3 55-gallon drums of 1 ethanol's R. They have 2 products, S and R. I've used both and made tons of power in both, but this is about as good as you can ever make corn juice. This stuff is the cleanest, most pure type of racing fuel I can think of, especially as an alcohol that's not methanol. This is ethanol, and short of it being capable of being drank, because it's almost 100% pure, they've got additives that are meant for racing, for fuel, so you can't drink this stuff. But your car certainly can, and we certainly will with the 4-rotor. So I'm very excited. This was right down the line. And you know, when you see this much fuel, you know something insane is about to happen, because that means that the 4-rotor is gonna be running quite a bit. Here comes the first power on my anti-gravity battery. I have both the positive and the negative leads covered and protected. And then I've got the switch off. Both of those run all the way down to there, to the starter, and then also technically to the starter, but to the block. Those both run up and under to right there, power and ground. And then those run up to here. They've got boots, not just warts, those are boots sitting there. And then those 2 powers go to those 2 boxes. That ground goes to that one. I'm gonna go ahead and flip this, and hopefully we see something happen over here. I didn't like that sound. Oh boy. I did not notice that there were really long bolts used when whoever made this, making those, and so needless to say, that shorted out the car. Round 2 of not hopefully shorting out the car or the battery. Hopefully the battery's okay. So we're gonna go ahead and see if this turns on this time. Something in the building moved. I don't hear anything or see anything. So this is a very huge moment, and it's like 2 in the morning, and you know that this looks horrible, but it's not. It's all covered, wiring, ready to go. You can see the laptop screen is blinking because the ECU is on. So let's go take a look at that side of the car, because we're about to do something really crazy. This is the first moment for this, and I'm very excited to share it with you guys. Of course, the main video will take it from here, but the ECU is on. It's also on partially because it is connected to the laptop. But I just tested some of these connectors right here, particularly this one, and there is 12 volts going to it. This is the one that connects to all the injectors, and if you guys aren't familiar with the way most injectors are wired, you have 12 volts running to them, and then each of them ground down to turn on. So there should be 12 volts constantly coming to the injectors. This one right here is the computer. So the computer to the engine. And so what I'm about to do is actually turn off the ECU and then plug, look at it staring at us. I'm gonna plug that one in and see if our sensors fire up. So if you fire up this Haltech with basically tons of wire, but nothing plugged into the wire other than ground over there, you don't get any official numbers. 47% throttle. There's no throttle being connected. You get good battery voltage. I don't know why my injectors are on. Nothing's actually firing. Lambda, you know, you're getting tons of weird things. I want you to see this is what it looks like before I plug that in. That was rather painful, but I do have that connected to the other side, and so that is 100% my wiring. So if this fails, I failed. You should maybe hear the drive-by-wire initialize. You should maybe hear all that stuff happen. But hopefully Kevin hasn't changed any of the pinout that we agreed upon. I don't have his latest version of his document, and so that could actually bite me in the ass right now. We will find out together. No real other way to get right to it. So I'm gonna go ahead and jumper this little wire right here. That little wire is actually what my ignition switch will be. I'm gonna keep the FD ignition switch, so let's see. I'm so scared. Okay, computer turned on. At least we're still reading a lot of the same nothings. Injectors are on more. They're not, thankfully not plugged in. F load, I don't know what that means. Let's see if I can look at the sensors. At least nothing has blown up yet. That was one hell of an emotional roller coaster last night between shorting out the battery, which thankfully anti-gravity has a short out protection, so you hear the click and then the battery says, hey, chill. So that saved the battery, first of all, and second of all, any sort of scariness. Simple as arc flash, I could have gone blind. That was the negative, but then the positive was the fact that I was able to get both the pedal and the drive-by-wire entire system operational. It is wonderful. I went and spent probably 4 hours calibrating all my sensors, and that's something I don't normally do, but because we have Bosch sensors, and then we have AAM sensors, and we have different fuel tech sensors, we have all these different sensors that are reporting the same thing, pressure or temperature. I made sure that I scaled them properly, so that way each sensor, when the car's sitting here, 60 degrees or 55 degrees right now, all the sensors were within about 2 degrees, 1 degree of the same. So that way all my numbers are accurate. Normally I don't care because I'm not comparing data from before and after, but this is very important to make sure that the number is the number. All that said, it's progressing quite nicely. We're hoping today to have this thing idling. So this is the tail end of everything. It's getting anxiety filled because the whole car is starting to become a thing. It's not just multiple pieces, it's the whole car coming together. And we don't even have the tires on. It's so deceiving to me to see this wrapped again, because it reminds me honestly of 2016. This is phenomenal, and it's so well done that it's both extremely loud and subtle at the same time, all the curves and everything. You almost like say, oh yeah, that's still the 4-rotor and it's still an RX-7, but I think this is what speaks volumes.
Couldn't do that before, huh?
Couldn't do that before. Also, there wasn't a fender from here over, and so all of this is just beautiful. The wrap being rewrapped, brand new. I cannot wait to see, with all the weight of the stuff going back in the car, I can't wait to see the wheels on and dropping it back to the ground. On top of everything, look at that fuel system right there. Every car we do, including redoing this one, we just get better. That was my biggest goal with doing the prototype version of this, is starting to form the final version of things. And so under here, unfortunately, I've been wearing this with pride, probably too many days in a row. Got my fuel labs on, but it's been too cold. Actually, there'll be a little titty.
Nip slip.
Yeah, we're hours away from firing it up. As you guys know, I have a sequential 6-speed Hollander in this vehicle. I love that transmission so much. That's like literally the center of the car. Well, right now we have the air shifter on there for looks, to make sure that it all fits and that there's extra wiring involved, but this is the real combo that I'm excited for. You guys know I am a very big fan of manual vehicles, and strain gauge works my manual heart out. I've got a little chubby as well because of having this. This goes into this, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys, Hollander, I never pronounce it right. I say it either way, it's wrong. This is very expensive. This is very expensive. These are very expensive parts, but it's a very quality piece of machinery. Everything that they've made has not once let me down. They've been a phenomenal company to work with. I'm not being paid to say any of this. It's just like, if you're gonna spend, remember I made a video like 3 years ago on like a super expensive transmission. You get what you pay for when you do that with transmission. Not just Hollander, but even like all my T56 quality transmissions are like, you don't have issues. You just don't have issues with cars. What we're gonna be doing right now though, is this simplifies my strain gauge setup. In here is really just 3 wires, power, ground, and signal. And that means that when I pull on this, it senses that strain and it knows to cut engine power to let me get into that next gear without the clutch. So So what we're doing right now is just seeing how long this cable has to be. This is the bane of my existence. Right now we are going through all those system checks that make sure when you go to turn the car on, everything works. So it's kind of those anticlimactic moments where, you know, if you've worked on a car, you have to do all these small things and then all of a sudden it all works and it looks like magic. But right now we're testing each different module individually and making sure that they work together. Like I haven't even plugged in the ignition system because if you're not paying attention, what will happen, sometimes the ECU isn't set up right or configured properly, and you'll actually start dwelling and charging up your ignition system, and it never lets go. There's no release, and you know, you kind of blue ball your whole ignition coils, and they will either pop a fuse or catch on fire. That's cool. That's really pretty.
Yeah. It's because someone doesn't know how to set up a Haltech software.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is the 0th Haltech I've ever set up.
0th?
Yep. It's a new number for how few Haltechs I've set up. What he's referring to is actually we have 2 CAN networks. So these are like networks inside of the wiring harness. Like you've got, you know, running to all these sensors on this, but then you also have this like network internet between different devices, and that's a whole new area for me. I normally avoid using that just because I have a sensor, I have voltage, I can get that. Haltech has like their keypad, their dash, even have a tire pressure sensor for all 4 tires. So kind of like all modern cars do, where we can measure the temperature and the pressure of each of the 4 tires from the dash. So all of those are Haltech products. They all connect on their CAN bus. But then I also have it where we're going to do the Bosch ABS system for racing, and that's on a whole nother CAN network. So it honestly, even at my level, it gets extremely confusing very quickly because they have resistors and all those sorts. So that's what we're testing right now. We just tested the EGT module, so Kevin's going to be our exhaust gas because he's full of hot air. And you're going to watch this number right here.
Get it right. This is role playing. I'm the doctor. Here, come take your temperature.
Your lips were okay. Fine.
Blow harder.
Is that cool? That's way more accurate, or at least responsive than I perceive them to be. That's badass. Okay, so we have EGTs also. This hood is being shipped off and, well, very clearly protected and made nice
with a
professional crew. This is the hood for the 4-rotor, and it is the mold for the hood. So the important thing about this is making sure that it stays dry and safe. And we'll go over this way more detail, but my buddy Steven from Nelson Racing Wheel, Nelson Carbon Fiber, while they're doing that, I'm working on putting the original shifter back in. I've shifted the shifter out of the way right there, and then the main shifter I'm getting the correct size bolts for, and we should be in good shape to at least have that properly plugged in.
I'm gonna get you. I love just like that. Yay. Fuck, I'm getting dizzy now. You're just mad because your wiring doesn't work.
The next time you guys see this hood, it's going to be in carbon. I went over this briefly with you guys before, but it gets even cooler than that. I went and cut a 1/2 inch off of this, and this is very, very much not the quality of my normal work. This whole thing had that huge, massive headpiece up here. Looked like some sort of Egyptian headdress thing, and then this was actually an extra 1/2 inch deeper. And so I did this all on the manual mill by myself, and you can see a little bit of the wear of the cut. But
Not bad.
No, I'm
tell.
very happy with that. And on top of that, even though I did that, it still has so much more distance between the radiator and this that fan can utilize that and just have more even pressure. I don't know how much that matters, but this almost to me tells you how efficient this fan is, that these little speed flaps don't really fully seal. It's not like they're like rubberized or anything like that. There's tons of air holes on them. That just to me means that this fan pulls a shit ton of air, that they're just like, whatever, doesn't matter. This whole fan, ready for takeoff. Now we don't have this top piece up here, so for today we're just going to run it a little exposed. Unfortunately, that means that it'll pull air from the top over the radiator. But so if you guys see it, don't make that big of a deal at the moment. This whole setup was shaved down to fit almost perfectly in here. So I'm gonna have to cut these off or bend them down or something like that, get them out of the way. But other than that, look at this. It fits really, really well. Here's the power for it. We don't have the boot on there. We'll test it, but I am not going to test this fan without having the fan zip tied or strapped to the radiator, because I've done that once and the whole assembly moves. The fan produces a lot of torque. It's actually very terrifying. This one though is brushless, so we should be able to say, hey, 10, 20, 30. You never forget your route. Like, what if the power went out, you know?
What the fuck are you using a hacksaw?
That's what I said.
Fuck all of you.
Stop! This is the 80s.
This is the most precise way to get this done.
In your mind?
It could have been done with all your power tools had you been doing it, but nope. This is the most efficient tool right now.
You are a tool.
I'd rather have you use whatever you're comfortable with. You know, I don't want any injuries in the shop.
Boom, look at that. Nice and clean. So we'll sit down on those. I did it this way because the flatter side is on the back side of these, because this kind of sticks out a little bit. This is actually probably the cleanest use of these ever, too.
I like it. Picasso.
If you didn't say that, I was going to. You gotta put the heart and soul into it.
You got to see it through, my boy.
I'm trying to be like you, my boy. Nailed it. The use of these is normally pretty like AutoZone or whatever, but this is actually turning out really nice. Look at that. That's not the full correct size you can see, but it's gonna work really well. The only thing I am actually worried about is this sliver right here, because that is the path of least resistance. So we'll ultimately, we're supposed to, but we'll ultimately make something here to weld onto the top. That's pretty impressive where that fits.
After long, hard days of work, don't you feel like you need to quench your thirst? Paid for, not sponsored.
So we stole this from this car for the 3-rotor, and it works well, even though I actually was not intending to steal it. I have the one for the 3-rotor I gotta take back, so we'll have a spare one when we're all done, but this one is my baby Clearview, the most like 1990s packaging ever. Love their product, but this is like speed, red and blue, AN lines. But this beef cake has both the big strain filter and then a nice filter from Hummer or Wraith, I think. Yeah. We have a massive filter on here, high micron, low micron, whichever way you want to word it. And this is how I filter my VR1. They're going to be running pretty high oil pressure. So oil goes in either side, you get to pick, goes through the filter, goes through the other filter, and then comes out right here. That's a lot of oil filtration, no questions there. So we'll put that back in the car, but I don't know if we have these fittings. This is the beginning of the car coming together right now. So this is the main line that feeds the water pump that then cools the engine. That's the easiest one to figure out. This is Blue's Clues type shit. I have no idea which one's which. Under the chassis. I won't put that hard. Because we can't get through there with the
What's going on here?
I hate our videographer because he never captured.
I wasn't here.
I didn't say it was you. And you're taking that personally, but I mean, if the shoe fits. But I wish our videographer at the time captured the overall shots of this thing. Really show off what hose went where.
I'll make sure to do that this time.
No, you won't. We made these hoses extra long because we didn't have them set up this way the first time, and we were intending to always like fix it, you know, that sort of thing. this line only has to run there. And it goes under the car, and it really just stops like right there. Like, look at how long that is.
Remember we had one to the oil cooler? That was way over there, but now it's not over there anymore because it's not an oil cooler.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We made it short, and I'm regretting it. You're being very cranky. Yeah, no, you gotta go to bed. Go to bed. No, that's very cranky of you. Go to sleep. Yep, I'll be in. Go ahead. I'll be in. Go ahead. There you go. Good girl. Put herself to bed. This part of the video isn't for you guys. It's for you. Yeah, you. Rob, future Rob. You're watching this part of the video because you don't remember how this shit went together. And you know what? Your assumption is that I don't know as much as you do, and that's absolutely correct. I am a moron. Just so you remember that before you get too frustrated and you're scrolling through the videos to remember how you set this all up, blame it on me. I am gonna make no sense, but all of this is gonna connect in here. And what I want you to remember is that all of these, really sharp angle ones, hook underneath here, and you have this like croissant sort of like wave of fittings to try and clear the chassis because you moved that oil pump right there. So they each go in like this, and those two are pretty much the same, but you also have this one. Same fitting on this end, but this one's a little wider to reach the back of the oil pan. So those three do that. And then for some reason, you thought you'd just waste tons of extra hose and loop this line all the way back through and under here, and then this splits off to all of these. If you're watching this and you haven't machined out your own adapter to make all of this go to one piece and then split from there, I blame you too.
The time has came.
And so did you?
After me. Wow. Oh, that's cool. Can someone grab me these nuts?
Right now I am putting on all the feed lines to each of the rotors for oil. So this is a really cool moment. We're finally popping off the engine, and this is where the engine, for me, really gets connected into the car. We now have built this so self-contained, but this is a life support system for this engine that is finally being put back on. It's tough, but it's very rewarding. It's 3 in the morning. You can be in the worst mood in the world. Valvoline's so fucking good at what it does. It's so hard to grab oil lines that have oil in them. All of that pales in comparison to the positivity of seeing the largest turbocharger that Garrett makes staring at you right in the face. This is how much you know that I love Valvoline. I'm not even in a contract or relationship with them right now, and I still love it. We're gonna put the coolant additive. What would make me happy is actually being able to watch the coolant system suck it in from here and
actually swirl like
extra swirl, but then also like this, thankfully, is the highest point of this whole area, so it bleeds like without even trying. So wonderful. I don't know how I nailed that without a funnel. My prostate's getting a little enlarged. The block is still very empty, so we could actually fill it in from over here. I remember that. All the air pressure's building up over there. This is kind of counterintuitive, but this area is technically lower overall than that area, but when the system is pressurizing or moving coolant through there, this is actually the lowest area because it's the most negative pressure. That area gets full when this pump is running. So you actually can take this cap off, and if you turn off the car and the pump turns off, the water will overflow right here. But as the system's running, you get all the air out through here. We're going to cap this off because there's no air left in this area. Just generally get this one topped off as well to get us in the right position. We are one more step close to starting the car, because I should be able to hear the water pump. Go ahead and open that one.
Ooh,
okay.
Wow, that's how it's supposed to work. I forgot.
Let's close that one, because we've had this happen before. And then we're going to open this one once that one's closed. Okay. Because the pump is pulling, this side's not filling up yet.
Is it low in there?
Yeah, it's low. But isn't that wild? That can be higher, but because of the pump pulling, the lower spot actually is the higher spot. I always love it because I can see the ocean coming over this way from there. Okay, let's turn it up to 40%. Oh, there she goes in. This is my favorite coolant system on any car ever. You actually see it sinking down as the air gets out to the system. Okay, and you guys can kind of watch as it purges it. It's gonna suck that through. Let's go to 80. Yep. It's throwing air into the system.
You want to bring it down so it doesn't overspin?
Not yet. This is working beautifully. It's almost there. Once it's consistent, all that air is just bubbling right out. So what's nice is as all this air collects here and the car heats up, it kicks the air out first. That's the most important part about this. Don't turn it off yet because it'll overflow. She sounds so happy. This is the ceremonial first step, filling of the cup. I'm gonna put it all in here. If you don't do this, you're just having the engine just run through doing this by itself anyway. Get that ring. Go ahead and pop that in. Now this car is not gonna want to start. Oh, it's like 35 degrees out.
Way too cold.
I'm trying to line up all the excuses now. The good news is that even if I try to start it, I don't want to start it because I want to get the oil all running through the system. And we've got a lot of oil to put in here. Not only have to fill this whole thing up, we have to fill all the lines up, which are all 12 ANs. Those are massive lines. The cooler needs to be filled up. Those are massive coolers, and those hold up to a quart each as well. This is a very intense 5 in the morning. We're all determined to hear this thing fire up, but we're going to do it in phases intelligently. This is a whole new ECU for me, so this is a very first of everything, and they honestly use totally different terminology than their predecessor, Adaptronic, who they acquired, and then also Fuel Tech. Everybody uses totally different wording for the same thing, and so it gets very, very frustrating. Just go in baby steps. So we're gonna make sure that the oil system first primes. It's really cold. I really do not want to start it right now, to be honest, but we're too far gone. We're gonna watch until we get oil up into the filter, stop, make sure oil goes through the whole system, and then try to start it.
Ready?
Yep. Somebody didn't put the bottom starter bolt in, and I just want to point that out because it's not Wasp. There was nothing wrong with Wasp, even though first you assume that all the bolts are there. I don't want anybody thinking that that was a Wasp thing.
Good?
No.
Did you see anything?
Nope.
Mm-mm.
Nothing.
Keep going.
There's fuel.
Let me get the timing light to make sure we got spark.
Yeah, I like that.
Oh yeah, there we go.
You're welcome.
We're on one leading. All right, I'm gonna give you a small spurts when you open it. She likes the Valvoline.
It's that Valvoline.
Oh, jeez. That's it right there. Oh. So she just needs more fuel.
Oh my god.
That starts to ride up. Oh my god.
Wow.
Thank you, Valvoline. She loves this stuff. She can get a little taste of this and she starts right up.
This is actually a very complex thing with a lot of new variables, but it's firing up and we're crushing through each of them because we got a new ECU, new power distribution module.
Look at all that
Just
in
we're
there.
testing it
Wow.
and running it at the same time. A lot is going on at once, and it's actually pretty impressive that we're getting here. So
Also, a few hours of sleep, you know, no
yeah,
biggie.
yeah, that part too.
The usual.
Very rich, very rich.
So we're crazy rich, 0.4, no
Yeah.
biggie.
There you go. That is a very mean and angry 1,000 RPM. That's it. It sounds like it's doing a lot more. And I'll tell you right now, those primary injectors down there, I blipped the throttle like a fraction. It's boom, instant. This thing is absolutely mento. It is ridiculous. That is honestly the four-rotor sound that we all hoped and dream of, that woof. And it's going from like 1,000 RPM to 1,500. It's like woof, like insane. We've got a lot of good things going on and a handful of bad things, but not bad, just like the reason why it's not driving, it's sitting up. So I'm gonna continue working on the idle. Now that I know where it wants to idle, it's at about 4 milliseconds of fuel. I can work backwards on the starting map as well. That's drive-by-wire faking a like bridge-ported sound. Woof, woof, woof. That's the throttle doing that. It's not me. I guess it is me on the computer, but that's actually hilarious. You guys know how drive-by-wire setting it up gets a little frantic, but then as soon as you got it set it up, works well. But that was actually kind of funny. It made me think that it's a very heavily ported motor.